Hey, hi, how's it going? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Becca and I tell your own personal paranormal experiences in the story format. If you have a story that you'd like me to share and be featured on this channel, make sure to message me on Instagram. The link is in the bio. Without further ado, boo, let's get into today's story. So Stephanie and Nick were husband and wife, and they had two beautiful children, Clark and Sarah. Clark was 4 at the time and Sarah was just a newborn. And they lived happily and quite content on their family farm in Kamloops, BC. Now, their family farm was a cattle ranch, and they worked hard and tirelessly day in and day out. But their farm was located very close to Padova. Now, if you don't know what Padova is, Padova was a small town. So picture like a barbershop, shopping center, just a really small, quaint little town. It did have a hospital, but it had all been abandoned. So it was this abandoned, creepy town. But being as their family cattle ranch was so close to Padova, they were given the opportunity to do the upkeep and the landscaping for Padova in exchange for some income. So on their off days at the cattle ranch, they would head over to Padova and do some of the landscaping. Now, Stephanie was never a really firm believer in the paranormal, but the one thing that she does remember is there was this one building in Padova, and she didn't know the history of it, but every single time that she drove by it, it just gave her the heebie-jeebies. It got to the point where she would actually take the long way around to their work site just to avoid driving by this building. So one day they're at Padova and they're doing the landscaping, and the now owners of the property come over and start talking to Stephanie. Stephanie had Clark with her, and he was kind of just running around in the grass, so she's having a conversation with the now owners and looks over and realizes that her son kind of wandered off. And he wandered off to this outbuilding. And now keep in mind, this is a 4-year-old boy who is literally scared of nothing. He's a tough kid. He's been raised on a cattle ranch. So when he got to the doorway of this outbuilding and looked up and screamed monster and went white and came running back to Stephanie, both her and the new owners were just kind of horrified. The new owner explained to Stephanie that that used to be a children's hospital, and he's wondering if something tried to reach out to her son. Stephanie kind of slept it off as she wasn't really a strong believer in the paranormal, but would later tell her husband Nick. It wasn't until a couple weeks later where Stephanie kind of thought maybe she brought something back from the old abandoned children's hospital. Stephanie and Nick had just gotten the kids down for the night, and Stephanie sees Clark run past her bedroom door and then run past it again. So she goes to get up to put him back to bed and goes into his bedroom to realize that he is still in bed and he is indeed sleeping. This happened hundreds of times while they were at their cattle ranch. And then fast forward 7 years, they decided to move. So they moved to this new location, and everything seems to have kind of sorted itself out. They saged the house, as Nick, her husband, was quite spiritual and really believed in the paranormal. So he did everything in his power to kind of bless the house and get rid of any negative energies. And when they finally thought that they had just left this uninvited guest behind, it started happening to her daughter. So Stephanie and Nick would be laying in bed, and it looked like Sarah had gotten out of bed and ran past their door. And so Stephanie would get out of bed to go put Sarah back to bed and realize Sarah was still in her bed, sleeping. So it continued. It continued with Sarah, it continued with Clark, to the point where Stephanie and Nick kind of just accepted the fact that they have this ghost child in their house. And Stephanie thought, you know what, if it's just a shadow child and that's all there is to this, then I'm okay with it. So one day Stephanie was in the kitchen and she was washing up her counters, wiping them down. And in her head, she's like, oh, I really need to find that tape. And she hung up her towel and turned around, and on her kitchen table was tape. And she couldn't really wrap her head around it. So she picked up the tape, and the table underneath of the tape was still wet. So very confused, she tells her husband the story, and she's like, I promise you, I'm not losing my mind. I was thinking about it and it just appeared. So Nick grabs the sage and resages the home, and he's hoping to rid whatever this is out of their house. Fast forward a couple weeks, and Stephanie's in her laundry room doing laundry. And she's just about to start the washing machine when she hears a child's toy that she's never heard before. Now the sound was coming from, there was a little crawl space underneath of their basement stairs that they hadn't even investigated since moving in. So when Nick gets home that night, she explains to him, I heard a child's toy that I've never heard before, and it came from underneath the stairs where we've never been. How about we go down and we check this out? So Nick puts on his headlamp and he's like, all right, let's go down here and check it out. And he goes down, he goes underneath the basement stairs. There really wasn't anything down there. There was an old fish tank, there was a bin, and they opened the bin, and inside it was Christmas wrapping and tape. So Stephanie and Nick are wondering if this is where the tape appeared from. To this day, Stephanie and Nick still have this uninvited guest in their home. They continuously sage their home, But they've accepted the fact that their life doesn't consist of just their kids. It's now this ghost child.